pulsar is in a very tight, fast orbit around another collapsed star that's not directly detectable. And the pulsar's orbit changes in the Einsteinian manner. It swivels 30,000 times faster than Mercury's orbit does, 4 degrees a year.
But as the binary pulsar goes round, according to Einstein, it radiates gravitational waves. The result of that would be that the orbital period would change slowly, and Joe Taylor is trying to detect this change. In fact, just the other day, Joe Taylor sent me a new manuscript of his in which he claims to begin to measure this effect, and it does seem to fit Einstein's theory very well.
These gravitational waves that Einstein predicted are ripples of warped space. And with the help of a computer, theorists have made movies of gravitational waves that ought to pour out from violent events, like the collapse of a star. And there's an interesting kinship, isn't there, between gravitational waves and the familiar tides of the sea that are raised on the Earth by the warped space around the Moon. We're a long way from the sea here, so we can't actually see the ocean moving up and down the way it does in a spectacular fashion on the coast. But as a matter of fact, at this observatory, they have measured how the rocks of the Earth move under the Moon's influence. They move up and down by as much as a foot, twice a day.
Unsettling to think of the Earth heaving like that. But the force of the tides gave a certain palpability to warped space. Wheeler then offered me a warped miniature table and a jar of quicksilver.
You'll notice that you have one of the blobs of Mercury pulled right out, stretched out, and nothing is a more beautiful illustration of a tide effect than that. But you can, if you like to illustrate that gravitational waves are also tides, take that blob of Mercury and jiggle it. And you notice it changes its shape, first this way and then that way. And there just isn't a more beautiful illustration of what a gravitational wave is.
September 9, 2017. What gravity is in the spherical dynamics of matter. An introduction into the theory of spherical hyperstates and the dynamics of spherical hyperstasis in regards and relative to our relevant frame of reference in our perceptions of the gravity we experience on Earth. Author, Daniel Arthur Ritter. These following items are the 3 rules everyone must know before going any further. 1. First, you must know that your perception is everything that you can imagine that could, and or will ever exist. 2. Second thing you must know is that nothing is lost or wasted, whether it be energy, data, and or force. 3. Third thing you must know is that all things in the universe seek efficiency and the path of least resistance within their existence. All forms of energy, positive or negative, repellent or propellant, seek to be, or exist, in the lowest energy state possible. Therefore, it's the gravity that the Earth has that holds us down, in a sense, because of its immense size in relation to our relative frames of reference. The mass of matter of the Earth and its atmosphere come from a culmination of a type of photon that exists in wave form, that are not a quanta of light, so much as they are those photons in wave form that are the force carriers of the electromagnetic spectrum. These force-carrying photons are the quantum vibrations, frequencies, and or frictions that exist that cause all of creation. These are the forces necessary to interact and culminate with light photons, electrons, and all other subparticles to become the various structures that literally tune themselves into matter. As matter becomes so large as a planet, like Earth, and its mass reaches a certain amount, this massive amount of matter and all of the force-carrying photons being emitted and received by the planet and all of its inhabitants, creates a certain momentum. In other words, it gains a certain energy as the sheer amount of force photons culminates. Such energy compounds into a weak propellant force that we experience and call gravity. So it's the immense amounts of force-carrying photon waves that are the product of an immense form of matter, whose sheer size and mass, in relation to our relative frames of reference, is that which dictates the planet's momentum, creating the specific pulling force we experience here on Earth known as gravity. It also explains a newly discovered, physically dynamic phenomenon that occurs with matter that I call the spherical hypostate dynamic of matter, hypostate in regards to an underlying reality but in relation to, and not unlike, the conjunction hyperstate as in the case of a superstate of matter. It's where matter forms into bodies of immense mass, such as stars or suns, planets, and moons, and it occurs as matter reaches a certain amount of momentum. This dynamic is the physical phenomenon that seems to naturally form matter into the shape of a sphere within space and time. Again, this is all dependent on the culminated amount of matter measured as its total gross mass. Where matter of such size and mass creates a spherical hypostate. So with that we can say that the force-carrying photon waves, which help create basic particles that form all matter, are the quantum components of gravity. The dynamics of spherical hypostasis. The Earth is spherical like the Moon and the other planets, and their moons as well, because at a certain size and mass, matter tends to have a momentum so large that it naturally takes on a spherical shape. As previously mentioned, it's what I call the spherical hyperstate dynamic of matter, or spherical hypostasis. Basically, matter as we experience it in our physically relevant frame of reference, exists only in the clearly different physical states we know of such as solids, liquids, gases, and plasmas. When matter has culminated to such an amount that it transcends our ability to easily reference or naturally comprehend its physical attributes relating to the momentum its mass achieves, and where its matter can exist upon or within it in every state of being that we perceive that matter exists in solid, liquid, gas, and plasma, and all of those states of being are interacting as a spectrum of states that are coexistent throughout it and upon its surfaces. For example, on planet Earth is where a spherical hypostate is created and will exist. As a whole, and according to the laws of physics, each state of being that matter can take on is constantly striving to achieve its lowest energy state with respect to its environment. So a sphere, naturally, is the lowest energy state and most efficient shape that something of such size, mass, and momentum can exist as. In turn, the sheer momentum and force that matter in spherical hypostasis creates is known as gravity. The gravity of an object of any mass of matter that exists in a spherical hypostasis is what dictates its momentum, and the concept of time, and how we experience the unfolding of it on this planet. Well, as you can imagine, Earth's momentum is far greater than ours. This is simply the reason we require momentum, or energy, to leave its grasp, whether we're just walking or jumping, driving or rocketing off of it completely. It's also the reason we don't feel the Earth spinning on its axis or hurtling through space. It's simple physics, right? The larger the momentum of an object, the more intense its gravitational pull on smaller objects of less momentum will be, especially those within close proximity to each other. In conclusion, planetary gravity is considered to be a fairly weak force, but it's actually our frames of reference upon such a mass of matter, the momentum created by it, and the spherical hypostate that keep us in a quasi-stationary state of rest on its surface. Basically, we have less momentum than Earth itself, meaning we have less energy, and because of that, and according to the laws I stated previously, we are in the lowest energy form possible to exist as ourselves, and therefore is why we seem to all be, in a way, at rest upon the surface of the Earth. I can go on and it all seems to fit until you get to the next state of matter that creates and governs the physical laws in black holes, that we can call the omega state, where physical properties change the laws of gravity, as we experience them, to take on a whole new unknown frame of reference outside of our consciousness. One that is similar to the anomalistic and uncanny uncertainties that we experience in the quantum planes of existence. Daniel Arthur Ritter.